Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Do me a solid and be sure you give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for future updates. William Henry Harrison, who was elected as the 9th President of the United States in 1840, was a territorial governor and army officer before his election. He became known for his Indian campaigns, which thrust him into the national limelight. He served only 1 month in office before he died, becoming the first U.S. president to die in office. His grandson, Benjamin Harrison, was the 23rd President of the United States. Born in Berkeley Plantation in Virginia, Harrison is descended from two wealthy and well-connected Virginia families. His father, Benjamin Harrison, was long prominent in Virginia politics and became a member of the Virginia House of Burgesses in 1764, opposing Patrick Henry's Stamp Act resolutions in the following year. He also was a signer of the Declaration of Independence, a member of the Continental Congress, and the Governor of Virginia, 1781 to 1784. His brother, Carter Bassett Harrison, served 6 years in the House of Representatives. William Henry Harrison was educated at Hampton-Sydney College and then studied medicine in Richmond and Philadelphia with Benjamin Rush. However, his father's death caused him to discontinue his studies. In November 1791, Harrison enlisted in the Army as an ensign in the 10th Regiment at Fort Washington near Cincinnati. The following year he was made a lieutenant and subsequently served as an aide-de-camp to General Anthony Wayne, who was engaged in a struggle against the Northwest Indian Confederation over the westward encroachment of white settlers. Harrison took part in the campaign that ended in the Battle of Fallen Timbers. The following year, on November 25th, he married Anna Tuthill Sims in a secret ceremony. Because her father objected to the match, the couple married in secret. Harrison was promoted to captain in 1797 and, for a brief period, served as commander of Fort Washington. He resigned from the Army in June 1798. In 1798, President John Adams appointed Harrison to succeed Winthrop Sargent as Secretary of the Northwest Territory, a vast tract of land encompassing most of the future states of Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, and Wisconsin. The following year, Harrison was sent to Congress as a territorial delegate. While serving in this capacity, he devised a plan for distributing public lands to settlers and also assisted in the division of the Northwest Territory. In May 1800, Adams appointed Harrison governor of the newly created Indiana Territory, which comprised, until 1809, a much larger area than the present state of Indiana. He would serve as governor for 12 years. In 1803, Harrison also became a special commissioner charged with negotiating with Native Americans on the subject of boundary or lands. In 1804, after the division in the Louisiana Purchase into the Orleans Territory and the Louisiana Territory, Harrison also acted as governor of the Louisiana Territory, all of the Louisiana Purchase north of the 33rd parallel. For a few months after the division in 1804 of the Louisiana Purchase, Harrison was the most senior territorial official in the United States. The resistance of Tecumseh and Tenskwatawa to the expansionism fostered by the treaties negotiated by Harrison led to an Indian uprising. After defeating the Indians led by the Prophet at the Battle of Tippecanoe, Harrison's military reputation was largely established. In March 1813, he was made a brigadier general and placed in command of all federal forces in the Northwest Territory. He would be promoted to the rank of major general in March 1814. General James Winchester, who was ordered to cross Lake Erie on the ice and surprise Fort Maiden, turned back to rescue the threatened American settlement at Frenchtown, now Monroe, Michigan, on the River Raisin, and there on January 22, 1813, was forced to surrender to Colonel Henry A. Proctor. With his offensive operations having been thus checked, Harrison accomplished nothing that summer except to hold in check Proctor, who besieged him at Fort Meigs, May 1st to 5th, the American advance post after the disaster at the River Raisin. After Master Commandant Oliver Hazard Perry's naval victory in the Battle of Lake Erie on September 10, 1813, Harrison no longer had to remain on the defensive. He advanced to Detroit, reoccupied the territory surrendered by General William Hull, and on October 5, 1813, decisively defeated the British and their Indian allies at the Battle of the Thames, in Ontario, Canada. Tecumseh was killed in the battle, and the British-Indian alliance was permanently destroyed. Thus ended resistance in the Northwest. After the war, Harrison settled in Ohio, where he quickly became active in politics. He served in the U.S. House of Representatives for 16 years, where he worked on behalf of more liberal pension laws, better militia organization, and improvements in the navigation of the Ohio River and for the strict construction of the power of Congress over the territories, particularly in regard to slavery. In accordance with this view, in 1819 he voted against James Talmadge's amendment restricting the extension of slavery to the Enabling Act for the admission of Missouri as a state. He delivered forcible speeches upon the death of Tadeusz Kosciuszko and upon General Andrew Jackson's invasion of Florida in 1818, all of which show his support for a partial censure of the latter. Harrison also served in the Ohio Senate for 2 years and in the U.S. Senate for 8 years. In 1820 he made an unsuccessful run for governor of Ohio. In 1828, after failing to secure either the command of the Army or the nomination as vice president on the ticket with John Quincy Adams, Harrison's friends were able to get him appointed as the first minister of the United States to Grand Columbia. However, he became an early sacrifice to Jackson's spoils system and was recalled within less than a year, though not before he had involved himself in some awkward diplomatic complications with the short-lived Republic's government. For some years after his return from Columbia, Harrison lived in retirement at North Bend, Ohio. He was occasionally mentioned as a candidate for governor, senator, or representative by the anti-Jackson forces, and during this period he delivered a few addresses on agricultural or political topics. Later, he obtained the lucrative post of clerk of the Court of Common Pleas of Hamilton County, Ohio. In 1835, Harrison began to be mentioned as a potential presidential candidate for the fledgling Whig Party. He was nominated as one of the party's 3 candidates at large public meetings in Pennsylvania, New York, and Maryland. The Whigs had neither a unifying platform nor a national convention. In the general election, Harrison attracted a large portion of the Whig and anti-Masonic vote in the Midwest and Western states, but he only received 73 electoral votes, while Van Buren secured 170 to become president. Nonetheless, Harrison's popular vote totals were large enough to encourage him to make another attempt. In the 1840 election campaign, Harrison won the Whig nomination over Senator Henry Clay of Kentucky, largely because of Harrison's military record and noncommittal political views. Succession to the presidency. In 1836, the Whigs nominated Harrison for president, believing he would be a successful war hero and frontiersman like Andrew Jackson. This made him the first packaged presidential candidate, with a carefully crafted image as a simple, down-to-earth person from the country. To appeal to Southern Democrats, they nominated John Tyler of Virginia as his vice president. Harrison's campaign deliberately avoided discussing national issues in favor of patriotic songs, partisan slogans, and appropriate insignias like miniature log cabins and jugs of hard cider. The campaign's successful strategies, including Harrison's win in the electoral vote with 234 votes to Van Buren's 60, demonstrated the public's faith in his ability to lead the country through times of crisis. Harrison was the first president-elect to travel by railroad to Washington, D.C. for his inauguration. Wearing no gloves and no overcoat despite the freezing weather, he rode up Pennsylvania Avenue on a white horse to take the oath of office on March 4, 1841. It was said that he was as pleased with the presidency as a young woman with a new bonnet. In the cold drizzle, he delivered an inaugural address that lasted almost 2 hours. In it, he highlighted a common Whig concern, executive usurpation, and reconfirmed his belief in a limited role for the U.S. president. He said he would serve but one term, limit his use of the veto, and leave revenue schemes to Congress. But after only a month in office, President Harrison was struck with a serious illness, and he died a few months later. His wife, Anna, was traveling to Washington at the time and was very sad when she heard the news. John Tyler, the first president to be sworn in after Harrison's death, took over for him. Harrison is buried in the Capitol, and his remains were later reinterred in Ohio. Subscribe and like the video. Thanks.